Good afternoon. You're tuning in to the Afterdark Spotlight here live at the Afterdark Studio in Cartersville, Georgia. Today we have Garrett Arnold with us. And David has been recording here at the Afterdark Studio for about 8 years or so. So he's got a big repertoire of music. He's going to tell you about some special guests that he's had featured on his records. And he's going to tell you some things about his music from where it started 7 or 8 years ago here to where we are today. So welcome to the broadcast, Garrett Arnold.
Thanks for having me. I appreciate it very much.
Looking forward to it. So as we said, we started 7 or 8 years ago, and when you came in for your first record, I didn't know. He just told me, he says, hey, we've got some special guests that I want to bring. He didn't mention any names, didn't say anything. So these guys start to show up, and in walks Rico Scott. And I'm like, okay, this guy has played with Derek Trucks Band, Stevie Wonder, Eric Clapton, and I mean,
Michael Jackson.
Michael Jackson.
Played on Broadway.
A plethora of people. And you've got to understand, this is his first record, not that, something that he's built up to where he got to know these people. This was his first record. People work years to try to get somebody of that caliber on their record. So when he comes in, I try to, hold my, composure and be like, hey, man, is it okay if I just blow you up all over my Facebook because people know you and this will look good for me. And he was just a very humble and welcoming guy, and it was just very good. So, and in this broadcast also, we're going to play a song that David did 7 or 8 years ago, featuring Rico Scott and some others, and he'll tell you some of the other special guests that was on there. But we're also going to do a time lapse from going from 7, 8 years ago to where he got an idea and a vision. He says, "Man, I want to redo this song and reinvent it with some things I've learned as far as musicianship growing, as far as production skills and taste change and things like that." So tell us, what song are we going to be listening to?
Song called "These Blue Skies," and it's I wrote this song when I was about Caden's age, about 20 years old, and it sat in a notebook for many years while my guitar was also under my bed for many years, and while I lived a life of more of a corporate life and didn't really spend too much time with music. But it's one of my early songs that I really liked a lot just for the imagery that it spoke about. And it also reminded me of what it felt like to be 19, 20 years old. And as I was lucky enough to meet Rico Scott at about the same time that I was kind of circling back to music in my life. And when I was about 50 years old, I started taking guitar lessons. And that's really when I started to learn how to write music and learning that theory and putting some of these things together, because I had notebooks full of lyrics, as I said, but from the days when I was a pipe fitter and stuff. And when life is crushing you, you can write a lot more. You can write music better a little. I think when you're actually living the blues, you can write the blues a little
influences,
better,
good influences,
right? So that's kind of how that progression worked. And then, as I said, started late in life, learning my instrument, and started doing open mics like a lot of neophytes do when you're first learning how to play and write and so forth. And got a lot of good feedback about the songs I was writing. Well, it really starts out. I would play a couple of covers, and people would say, "Well, you played that wrong." And so I said, you know what, heck with that. I'm going to write my own songs, and nobody can ever tell me I played it wrong. So it's even if I play it different every single time, it's my song, and it's right. And of course, I've since been disabused of that knowledge by other musicians over time, and I've learned that actually you have to count and so forth. So if you're going to play with other people, you got to do it right. And that's one of the things that I learned from Rico is if you're going to do this, you have to be serious about focusing on making it right and making it nice, making it sound professional. He was the kind of guy, he said, you never wear jeans to a gig. It's just, now he had a whole bedroom in his house he turned into a closet, and he probably had more shoes than Imelda Marcos. But he was he believed in looking professional and acting professional. He learned some hard lessons over time, and maybe that's a story for another day. But we were sitting around one day, and I started playing on my guitar while we were sitting around. He said, "What is that?" And I said, "Well, that's a song I wrote." He said, "Have you written some songs?" I said, "Yeah, you'll play me some." So I played him 4 or 5 songs, and he said, "Man, this is good stuff. We need to get in the studio." And I said, "Well, I don't know anything about doing that." He said, "Well, I'll produce your record." He said, think about this as a novel. You're writing a novel, and you're gonna, if nothing else, you want to leave this for posterity, for your kids and your grandkids. They'll listen to your voice, for the rest of eternity. It'll be out there. You need to capture this. And I said, okay. He talked me into it. And some of the guys down the street, Rob Carmelo was one of the guys I used to hang out at the music store. A bunch of us would hang out at the music store. And I got, those guys were really influential with me by giving me a lot of encouragement early on. Robert Matthews and Larry Vogel and these guys and Rob Carmelo. But anyway, Rob knew Donnie Hammond and introduced
he shot all my music videos and stuff before he, I guess, retired from the music and thing.
He's also a jeweler, a very talented jeweler, I think, too. So, but anyway, Rob was one who suggested we come out here. And Jan Rico and I rode out here one day and met Donnie, and Jan Rico obviously had recorded some of the finest studios that there are, and he said, "Well, this is perfect for what we want to do." So we came in here and it was crazy. That whole the first album came together, 10 songs. Reach Out is the name of the album, and we did 10 songs in 2 days. Mm-hmm. Now we were prepared because I was working with a pro, and he made me chart all my songs and all that kind of stuff. So, but we literally the musicians that played on that album never played together until we got in that room that day. Now, we had played with each other individually at different times. Jan Rico and I played together. Tim Geary and I had played together as drumming.
Who was the bass player? Tell us who the bass player was.
Brian Hall is the son of one of Wet Willie. His dad was the bass player for Wet Willie,
not Jimmy Hall, but Jimmy Hall's brother.
Jimmy Hall's brother.
So you had his nephew playing bass, and I'm like, I had no idea these caliber musicians.
So we had all this rock and roll royalty in the room with us, and it was obvious. They were both really good, and made the rest of us good. And Tim Geary was guitar player. Alexis LaSalle sang a lot of the harmonies for us. But Tim is one of the finer guitar players around, especially for an amateur. I think
he's become one of my favorites. Like I said, I met him when you brought him in, and I'm just like, I plugged his guitar in, and I was like, well, let's check tones, and he's like, I'm good to go. It's like, most guys come in with a big pedal board and take 15 minutes. He says, well, I'm just going to use this little Fender amp, and I got like a tuner and something. And he starts playing, and that's when I realized, and I've heard, all my life, the magic is in the hands. Right. And when he started playing, and like I said, that's been 7 or 8 years ago, and he's still doing sessions up to last week, and we were working on a song today, and it's just, I've been playing guitar for 30 years, and he continually like blows my mind. He's to me, he's and people's going to say, you're crazy, but Mark Knopfler style, the guy nails it. I mean, it's amazing.
He can do that for sure. But he also has varied in his taste. He plays a lot of the Wes Montgomery style stuff too. It's very jazzy. Lately, he's been throwing down a lot of the Steely Dan stuff.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. He's great in that genre.
That's hard stuff to play and make it sound good. And right out of the gate. I mean, he just sits down and plays this stuff. So yeah, Tim Geary is one of my favorites, and I've been really blessed to have some of the nicest people help me along the way and lift me up, and I know that I don't have nearly the talent that these guys have. Donnie and these other guys have really got a lot of talent, but they make me feel good about what I bring to the table, and as a result has been some really good stuff. I think that our stuff stands the test of anything you might hear, depending on what your tastes are. And typically the way we look at it is we make music we like, because we may be the only people who ever listen to it. So if somebody trips over it and they also like it, that's a bonus. But I like to listen to the stuff we produce, and I have it on all my playlists and so forth. And I certainly hope other people listen to it. But it's not necessary for me to be satisfied with where I am with my art. I mean, again, it's my art, so it's hopefully evolving over time as I go along. And just like with that first album we did, with Jan Rico and that crew. As we've done these songs, a lot of those songs I played live since then. I've been playing those songs live with other bands and so forth. And almost invariably, we play them all at a significantly faster tempo than we did that first day, because Jan Rico just kept us in this pocket, and it was a much slower pace, still effective and really good. But we kind of got out of the gate a little bit, and now we play everything just a little bit faster than we were playing it those days. And when you're live, I think the adrenaline kicks in, and you tend to be a little faster.
I can identify with that. I mean, speaking of being like evolved, I mean, not only, I guess it would be different if you had recorded, like, say, at another studio, and I'd heard the stuff and just listened from start to finish and says, yeah, man, this has changed. It went from this to this. But me personally being involved and having the honor to record these songs and watch you from when it first started to, these Blue Skies sounding, singer-songwriter, kind of a country, and then you come in and says, well, let's rock it up. And I'm like, and then David seen me play live, and I'm like, you sure you want to go there? You know what I mean?
That's right.
You want to do some Donnie on it?
Right.
But me getting to produce this stuff alongside of David and us just putting our heads together in creativity, it's transformed like tremendously, because it's like I said, you're going to hear when I play these Blue Skies 8 years ago, and then the clip from now, you're going to be like, wow, sounds like a different song, but it still has the vibe and the gist of what it is. Right. But there's things that even like I think sometimes, and different artists push me to different things, like you do. Like when I listen to your stuff, I was like, oh man, that sounds country, and I have it on my playlist, and some stuff sounds country, some's like, man, what is that? Like a song. Actually, I was listening to Pandora the other day, or a couple weeks ago, and a song came on, and I was like, man, that song sounds real familiar, but I don't know what it is, but it's got a good hook. And it was Jake Break, something we'd recorded, maybe 2 or 3 years ago.
One of our biggest songs.
And then it just sounded familiar, because I forget, because like I said, I work with so many different clients and artists. And then when you started singing, I'm like, man, that's something I recorded and produced. And I said, it's going from, whoever this big major label artist is to these, to David's stuff, and it was amazing to see the the transformation and stuff like that. So I can see in production skills and production wise is, he'll come in and say, hey, let's do something that sounds like Pink Floyd. So I go home and watch Pink Floyd, The Wall, and come back with these ideas, and it amazes me the things, like when I hear stuff that that we've done together and the production stuff, because I can tell of recordings that I've done in years past to things now that's like, wow, I've grown as a producer and hearing these things, and it's just amazing when I listen to your music, even though it's something, that I've had a hand in recording. When I listen to it, I'm like, man, how did we do that? You've even mentioned that we need to keep notes, because we come up with some cool ideas, we come up with some cool sounds, and I listen back to it, and I'll ask him sometimes, how do we do that? What guitar do we use? What do we, because it's just and things like that, we can go back and try to find the same guitar, but to me, you can't capture that moment. We have so many things in his songs that are done in the moment that I'm like, man, that gives me cold chills and stuff like that. So it's just been awesome to see you evolve and the songwriting and stuff like that. And one thing that intrigues me is, like I said, and I work with tons of artists in and out every week, and they come in like country songs. She broke my heart. I'm on my tailgate with a 6-pack of beer or something like that. And it's just love songs and country songs, and I mean that's why they say three chords and the truth or whatever. But your songs to me, and we've actually never even really like discussed this stuff. I'm getting into my inner parts today. But no, it's like it's short stories or like mini stories, because it's like a story. You start off telling a story about, hey, there's this girl at this dollar store, and she makes it. I'm like, and I envision stuff. If you know me, I'll take things from 0 to 100 real quick. So what song is it talking about the girl at the dollar store with a grocery cart or something like that?
No, that's actually two different songs. But,
okay, so these songs, when you
Face Your Mistakes is the one about the girl with the. It's not the girl at the dollar store. My girlfriend. The story is my girlfriend ends up marrying the manager of a dollar store. Yeah. Because she thought I didn't have enough ambition, right? So she marries the manager of the dollar store.
All these things, and when you're singing these songs and I'm listening to you sing the lyrics, I'm like, I can see characters. That's what it makes. And it's more than a song. And there's nothing wrong with like love songs, because I write plenty of them, stuff like that.
I have too.
But it's just, when you're sitting there singing, and I'm like, and I'm envisioning the manager at the dollar store walking through, and I see these characters, and I see I see 3 or 4 minute movies in my head, and I'm like, man, if I was to do a video, I don't know necessarily. And one thing Rob used to get on with me, he's like, because I was like, well, let's do this. He said, don't say bus, see bus. I was like, well, if I'm doing this, if I'm walking down the railroad tracks, he says, we're not going to walk down the railroad tracks. We're going to do something different. And I was like that. I'm like, why? But I see these mini stories, and that's one thing that's intriguing about working on your stuff is because, like I said, it's just, it's something different. And as you sing, I'm wondering what's going to happen at the end of this movie. You know what I mean? And I'm wondering where it's going. Right. And then you sing the bridge in the next verse, and it ties it all in. So I think people are going to enjoy your music if they sit down. I think, first of all, when they hear the music, they're going to be drawn in by the sounds, whether it's, you got stuff that's danceable, you've got stuff that sounds like Pink Floyd that's just it's going to be vibey, that's going to intrigue you. But if they listen to the words, you're going to be like, dude, this is a great story, man, and stuff like that. And that's what's intriguing.
I certainly
to substance of it.
I tried to weave life lessons, and a song may not really be a story. It might just be a series of life lessons, 2 sentences about things that are, that I want to leave behind as little bits of, a little 411 I want to leave behind for the people behind me that if you listen to this and you're thinking clearly, it might keep you from, falling over the edge into the abyss if you're paying attention. But, if they're not, then you live life your own way. Some people have to, and we've got a song about this too. Some people run headlong into a disaster because they want to see it for themselves. They don't trust you, and I can't. What's the line from "Don't Come Down Here"? Everybody's going straight to hell because they want to see it for for
Yeah,
because they just want to see it for themselves.
I don't believe everybody else. Yeah.
We're all driving straight to hell just because we want to see it for ourselves. So we make a lot of those kind of mistakes, but songs, you don't, the way the process has worked for me is there is no process. There is a process of capturing it once the ideas come to me, but what I try to do is be open to ideas all the time. Phrases, I read a lot. And I've been retired, I think I'm in my 11th year of retirement. I've read 700 some odd books in that time. And there's all kinds of interesting phraseology that people writers use to describe things. And my father taught me one thing is if you steal one person's idea, that's plagiarism. But if you steal lots of people's ideas, that's research. So I research my songs a lot. They are a collection of stolen ideas and stolen phrases, and not necessarily from books, but from I hear people say things, and the way I grew up talking, that cadence that people use in South Georgia. We don't say fixin', we say fiddin'. And if you sing the word fiddin', then you got to find a word that rhymes with fiddin', if you're going to work that into a song. But fiddin' means something different if you're trying to tell a story and tell it with authenticity. If you say you live below the gnat line, you better say you better pronounce things correctly. And same thing, if you want to claim you lived up in the hills, then you better sound like a hillbilly. Otherwise, you're not going to be you'll be discredited. So
I can relate with like people, because like friends of mine, they they're talking. I'm like, they might be talking about somebody, might be talking about something. I said, you better watch what you say. And they're like, why? I said, it might end up in a song. You know what I mean? I had one of my friends, and he was going through a divorce, and was talking about, they'd been married 32 years, and he said, man, she took everything but my last name. You know what song I wrote? She took everything but my last name. That's been one of my most requested songs, the originals. But and it goes. It was such an easy song to write. She took the TV, the radio, the car. She took everything but my last name. So like I said, if you're if you're around a songwriter, you better watch what you say. It's going to end up. You might not know it's about you, but
I tell people all the time that these songs are not autobiographical. They're biographical. They're about somebody's life, not necessarily mine. And I try to observe and hear and you have friends over time and you talk about their lives, and that's what I heard Sting say that one time. He said he said every time people say, oh, you got to write what you know, you got to write from your life experience. He said everything I wrote like that sucked. He said, but so I started looking at other people's lives and writing about their stuff and other things I observed, then those songs resonated with people more. So what I try to do is not think about any of that. I just try to, when the ideas come to me, I write them down. The hardest part is coming up with some new way of presenting it.
That's what I was going to ask. When you write a song, like, do you come up with music, or do you do lyrics first, or do you or both? I mean, what? Because like I said, me recording your songs and beginning able to produce them, sometimes I see ideas, and if people could come in the studio and watch how a song is produced, and because like I said, most people don't know what goes into it, but sometimes he'll show up with Bojangles biscuits and sweet tea, and we're ready to go. And I'm like, what you got on the agenda today? Well, I don't know. Let's just flip that book. And then 4 hours later, we have a song, and it's just amazing to see. So how when and you've got a book, we just kind of flip through, and he'll be playing something. I'm like, what's that? Let's so like that. So how do you do as far as? So
speaking of 4 hours later, I don't know if you remember.
As soon as I said that, that's another song.
Well, we're sitting around one night watching late night or any TV nowadays, and you're bombarded with pharmaceutical commercials, and so the one about Cialis kept talking about if you have an erection that lasts for more than 4 hours, you should see a doctor. And I'm like, nobody's going to complain about a 4-hour erection, especially not a woman, right? So we wrote this song that was kind of an ode to what's the blue pill?
Viagra.
Yeah, no to Viagra, Cialis, and all that. Yeah. So I called 4 hours later, and it basically is 4 hours later. I'm still going strong. Should I call the doctor? Is there really something wrong? And my baby's not complaining. She 4 hours later, she's still happy. She's very happy.
Yeah, that's.
But
funny.
So surrounding yourself by all of these phenomenal artists and people and nephews of phenomenal artists, how did you grow accustomed to being in that class per se?
They always made me feel really comfortable, for one thing, and they acted like from the very beginning. I was lucky enough that people would come up to me and say, I really like your songs. People who couldn't, who and I can't sing, but I sang. Yeah. But people who didn't want to sing, who could really play instruments, like Tim and other people, would come up to me and say, "Man, I love your songs. Can I play with you? Mm-hmm. Do you mind if I, accompany you?" And I was like, "Sure, okay." That's when I realized, oh shit, now I got to start to count. Mm-hmm. So before, you could hold out a note as long as you wanted to. You could, give space and air it whenever you wanted to, or jump it whenever you felt
just
like
do whatever you want to do.
Just
play, go with the moment.
And which I still do. You'll find the band will say you still do those things, but I've been really fortunate to have people who actually had a desire to play what I write.
And you picked all of that up later in life. Before your music and everything came about, what did you do? How'd you grow up? Where'd you grow up? How was that?
Well, I'm the eldest of 5 boys, and so all my brothers are my best friends. We, from a very early age, we swore that nothing or anybody would ever come between us, and so we've lived that our whole lives. We're all very close, I was also fortunate enough to meet the woman that I was going to marry when I was a teenager. So when I started dating my wife Annette when we were 15 and 16 years old, and now we've been married 51 years.
Yeah, that's amazing.
And we started off. I was a pipe fitter. Mm-hmm. She was a student, and while I was a pipe fitter, I wrote a lot of songs. I thought I was going to be a musician one day. I was like a 3-chord Charlie. I could, and that. But I didn't really know anything. I knew a bunch of guys were in a band, and I really had wanted to be in a band. I toyed with the idea of setting up a studio with a guy. That kind of fell through, and so then I decided I wanted to not. I didn't want to fit pipe anymore while I still had all my fingers and all that stuff. Yeah. So I decided I had already been a couple of years to community college. I said I'm just going to transfer to Georgia. I can. Got really lucky. The place where I was a pipe fitter. I was lucky enough to be have studied a lot of math when I was in high school. So when I got to be a pipe fitter, they went, "Oh, wow, you can do trigonometry. We're going to make you the quality control guy, because all these other guys are just bend and bend, all this stuff, and it's not even going in the right direction." It's like,
Yeah.
So they whisked me out of pipe fitting pretty quick and made me go and look at everybody else's work. And it came one day they decided they're going to have a layoff, and I had been talking about going back to college, and so the HR guy calls me in and says, "Hey, we'll lay some people off. You're not on my list, but I had heard that you want to go back to college." And I said, "Yeah, I'm kind of thinking about getting, I've been accepted at Georgia. I don't want to go up to Athens." He said, "Tell you what I'll do. If you don't mind, I'm gonna put you on the list to be rift, or and in our reduction in force, you get unemployment, and you go to school." And I was like, "Okay." So I left that job and went to Athens, and after that, fell in with these professors at Georgia who were really brilliant communicators and educators, and spent the next couple of years, actually 3 years. I went to graduate school after I finished with my bachelor's degree, but just learned a lot and really was able to translate that into future jobs. And so I went from there to knocked around a little bit until every job you get, good job, is going to be from somebody you know, right? Mm-hmm. So, and in this case, somebody I know happened to have a tip on a job for a lobbying group with an insurance company. I didn't know anything about insurance. I didn't know anything about lobbying. I barely knew anything about writing, but I had done a lot of writing in college because that's what I was studying. But anyway, they had everything there I needed to learn on the job, and so I went with this lobbying firm, and we were writing all these position papers and all this kind of stuff that the guys would go into actually lobby the legislators, and I would be the guy that followed along with the notepad, writing down the notes, and that sort, keeping up with what it was, and then helping them strategize messaging later on when they sat. And so over the time, I had managed to work for two different lobbying firms that did insurance industry lobbying, and in that time I traveled all over the Southeast to all the capitals. You go in state capital to state capital to talk to all these legislators and stuff, and a lot of big time campaigns that were going on in those days. So I got a chance to do a lot of writing about things that were really at top of mind and that people were interested in and talking about in those days. Also, like anything else, once you see sausage being made, it's not so attractive. So, I wanted to get away from the insurers as soon as I could because nobody liked us. Mm-hmm. I would call a reporter or somewhere at a paper, and I had this happen to me in Charlotte. I called the Observer and the business editor, and I said, "I got some information I want to bring by you about some legislation that we're trying to help pass through." And he said, "I don't want to hear anything you got to say." I went, "Excuse me?"
Yeah.
He said, "No, you said you were from the insurance industry?" I said, "Yeah." He said, "Yeah, I don't want to hear anything you got to say." I said, "Aren't you a reporter? Don't you cover both sides?" He said, "Click." Wow. Hangs up, and it's like, okay, so that's how it's going to be. You move on. And what I would do, I came up with these ideas where I would do this 2 minutes on no-fault insurance. And so I would write up everything you need to know about insurance. If you read this card, it'll take you 2 minutes, and you'll know everything you know. Well, I knew the legislators, we had seen studies that said they'd only read like 11 minutes a day, right? So I knew I had to get it to them fast. I went into the bathroom in all these capital cities and posted this stuff on the inside of the stalls where they would go and sit. So they'd be sitting there for 2 minutes. They'd have to read two minutes on no-fault insurance, or 2 minutes on tort reform, or 2 minutes on safety belt use, or whatever it was.
That's funny.
And whatever law we were trying to pass, I was posting these things in the bathroom. So then I got this reputation, for coming up with this clever idea, number one, but then it got to be a funny thing that everybody said, "Hey, did you see what in the bathroom, what David put in the bathroom today," or whatever. This would be in Tallahassee, or it might be in Jackson, Mississippi, or whatever. Yeah. Anyway, later on, this group was shrinking, and so they were downsizing and whatnot, and we were actually not furloughed, but we were went to work from home. They set us up with home offices, so they didn't want to have an office anymore, but they wanted us to still work. So. But about that time, another friend of mine had gone to work for Georgia Tech and was running their communication department. He said, "Yeah, I'm trying to repopulate this place. I got rid of a bunch of old hands. Are you interested in applying?" I said, "Heck yeah, man." So I went to Georgia Tech in 1992 and left in 2012, 20 years later. And in that time, we did the Olympics. Well, that's what the drawing card was. When he said, "Man, we're about to do the Olympics. I need somebody to help me get prepared because we're going to be the village. We're doing like $1 billion in construction on campus, and so all this stuff." So when I was there, we did over $1 billion in construction. We'd had the Olympics, numerous other events, presidential visits and vice presidential debates, and all these kinds of things over time. And Tech actually grew from a community college. They've had very little student housing. But after the Olympics, they built all those dorms and the swimming pool and the gyms and all these other things. And so Tech became this world-class institution. They already had world-class academics, but they weren't known. So now Tech is huge. It has easily doubled in size since I started there. But the other thing about it, because Tech raised so much money privately, we in the communication department were able to do things no other university in the state could do because we had our own money. Yeah. If you had to go through the bidding process, it would take you forever to produce a commercial. If you had to go through the bidding process, it would take you forever to get a website, to get a contract on a good website company because you had to go through all the process. Yeah. So now, not that we didn't still go through the process because we wanted to make sure we got the biggest bang for our buck, but the time was shortened because we were able to spend our own money and not have to go through the state to do a lot of things. But also meant that we had the best of everything. You're talking about $75,000 cameras and things like that, and it was, we had a big time operation, 75 people, and of every kind of thing, from speech writers to media relations to video production to audio production we even ran the campus television station for a little while out of our office. Presidential speeches. I did all the prep for any time anybody had to do like a media interview. Then that was part of my job, was to prep the president to appear in 60 Minutes or whatever. So that and again, somebody I knew told me about a job at Kennesaw State after I'd been at Tech for 20 years that my chance to run the department similar to the one I was working in at Kennesaw, their institutional communication department. And so I went up there for about 3 years, and I had always planned to retire as soon as I could. I have a grandson that I like to spend a lot of time with, and has special needs. And at that time, my parents were aging, and I knew I was going to be taking them to doctors and stuff like that. And by then, I had discovered music, and I was like, you know what? I'm tired of doing it for the man. There were also some circumstances where there were times when I was asked to be a spokesperson in a situation that was uncomfortable, where I felt like we had not done the right thing when we were trying to cover it up. So I was kind of tired of being that person who was always the tip of the spear when things went wrong as well. You go out there and smooth it over with the media, and worse would be something when I would tell them, if you do this, you're going to have blowback. They would ignore that and still do it. And but anyway, meanwhile, I had these notebooks accumulated with songs, and so I retired. Started honing my songwriting and not so much my guitar playing skills. I think I certainly have improved my guitar playing skills over time. That is more of a function of the people that I've been surrounded with. Like you say, if you play with people who are really good, you get better. Mm-hmm. I don't know. I'll never in my lifetime be as good as some of these people. Donnie is naturally gifted. Don't ask him to tell you, half step, whole step, bass clef, treble clef.
I don't know what I'm playing. I just
any of that. No, but he can pick up just about any instrument, and within a few hours, he can play really good stuff on it.
A funny story about that exactly. Last Thursday, I was in here, and the Wednesday before, he had posted his little lap steel, and it was sitting right here where you are. And I was like, man, could you play that over this track? And he was like, funny story, I got it at a yard sale for $60. You want to play it? I was like, yeah, absolutely, let's do it. So Donnie was like, I have no clue what I'm doing. I don't even know how to turn this thing up, but we'll play it. So he plugged it in and he started playing it. I was like, holy crap, that sounds really, really good. And he was like, I didn't mean to do that, but we're going to put it in the song.
We did a couple of notes and stuff. It was by accident. Like I said,
Well, that's what we got a lot of stuff like that over time where we would just make these random noises.
Yeah.
Even, bump the guitar against the microphone and then put a delay on it. And it was like,
that's one of my favorite sounds. Is one day he was in the tracking room and he had his acoustic plugged in, had a microphone there, and I forgot to mute it when you got done tracking and something happened and you hit the microphone, it went clump. I'm like, I didn't think nothing about it, and I don't know how it evolved where, but somehow a delay got put on that track or something, whether it was an accident or whatever. But that's one of my favorite samples, and now it just, it sounds amazing. So those kinds of things that's studio magic, things you can't get. So when you hear his records, you're gonna be like, what is that? Or we can't. It's amazing. Like
there's virtually nothing that as we have evolved that most of the songs that we produce now, we would have to go back and relearn if we had to go play them somewhere.
Oh yeah, because it's in the moment. And
but,
And speaking of David's music, so what we're gonna do, we're gonna take a break now, and we're gonna play you the before, which is of These Blue Skies. I'm telling you, it's gonna be the same exact song, same lyrics, same everything. It's just except for production wise. So this is gonna show you, if you're a musician and wondering, what is production? They keep mentioning production. What's the difference in production and the melodies and things? We're gonna show you. This is the same song, just with different ideas. I mean, imagine if you took a baked potato. And some people put sour cream and bacon and cheese. Okay, that's normal. Okay, when we did the first record, we did drums, guitar, bass, the things you would do. And then he says, but, and so I asked, I was like, well, you want to record the same song? What are we going to do it different? We're going to do some things different. We're going to put A1 on it, and we're going to put some guacamole. And I'm like, on this song? You really? And then we started doing it, and we're like, that tastes good. So you're gonna so when we go to this break, like I said, you're gonna hear the before and after, and we will see you after our break. Good afternoon, and we hope that you are enjoying the podcast and learning more about local musicians. But today we want to give a shout out to 3 sponsors. We couldn't do this without our sponsors, and we're very grateful for them. First, we have the Countryside Cafe, located here in Cartersville. They're actually at 30 Road 2 South, Southwest, Cartersville, Georgia. That's out, if you're familiar with Cartersville, if there's a little place we call Sugar Valley out. You can go out Mission Road, Burnt Hickory Road. If you come from Rome, it's out Macedonia or 411, Sugar Valley. And there's a little store for many, many years that's been called the Sugar Valley Quick Shop. So if you know where that's at, Countryside Cafe is right beside them. But it's, like I said, it's 30 Road 2 South. That's Cartersville, Georgia. They have special nights where they have steak nights, different dinner nights, but they don't just do dinner. They do breakfast and lunch. They have some amazing lunch. I recommend trying the big old chili dogs with slaw and everything. It's good. They have great breakfasts. But if you their specialty, and what I like about it, if you know me, I'm a food connoisseur and I like food. And if you've seen my Facebook pages with my wife's amazing cooking, you know that I know food, and you can tell by looking at me. But Countryside Cafe offers and specializes in country cooking and that good food you like grandma used to make and stuff like that. So if you like country cooking and some comfort food, Countryside Cafe is the place to go for breakfast, lunch, or dinner. And like I said, they're located on 30 Road 2 South. And you can also do call-in orders at 770-383-9099. So if you're in a hurry and need some lunch, want to take it back to the office to eat, or want a big box of wings, they can handle you there. So shout out and a big thank you to Countryside Cafe. Our next sponsor is Mike Bolen. Some of his friends and know him by Big Mike, but Mike is a great singer, great songwriter, and when he sings, you wouldn't expect it to come out out of his mouth, because it's such a soulful and such a, I don't know, it's just a pleasant sound, and he's got a great tone and stuff like that. So if you're looking for an artist for your bar, for your restaurants, birthday parties, whatever, Big Mike will do it. Mike Bolen. So find him on Facebook, Mike, Mike Bolen, and like I said, and he's on Facebook, and he has some videos there, and you can also find him on TikTok. So go to TikTok if you want to hear this amazing singer, songwriter. So we hope to have him in the studio soon recording some of his originals, but like I said, it's a fine musician, and we appreciate him sponsoring the podcast as well. And then third, we have DSHC. DSHC. So they're from Big Texas, the upcoming company, and there's some absolute fire. They have hats, clothing, and also some custom items for you. They have their shipping time is phenomenal. I mean, you can order something and they have it to you super quick. So if you like hats and things like that, just all kind of clothing, go, check them out. Their number is 512-995-8102. That's 512-995-8102. So if you like some, some custom hats and some custom clothing and things like that, that you can't find, that you may have to, go to different stores to find, you can find them. And like I said, it's DSHC. DSHC. And look out for Colton. Check them out online, and they'll have you fixed up with some fine hats and some fine clothing, and have you ready for a night on the town. Say you can go buy you a hat or some clothing at DSHC, and then you can go to a Countryside Cafe and eat some good food, and then you can go see Mike Bolen performing somewhere. So you can see all three of our sponsors in one night. So we do appreciate these sponsors, and like I said, for some good food, good music, and some hats and clothing, check out the Countryside Cafe, Mike Bolen, and DSHC. We appreciate you guys for your sponsorship, and we will talk to you soon. Now back to the show.
Sitting beneath the trees, I was waiting for my woman. I was hoping for a breeze. Spring day, I was sitting beneath the trees. I was waiting for my woman. I was hoping for a breeze.
So we're back. Thank you for still tuning in and listening. So what did you guys think about that? I mean, did you hear the change? I mean, the same song, it's just, is that not amazing that it's the same artist, and you can take a song and paint it and make a beautiful portrait out of, one song and paint it many different colors. And that goes to show you what you can do in the studio. So there was your before and after. And like I said, it's just amazing. I mean,
I think that's also a lesson to people who, every artist out there wants to record something. And most people think that, and here's what I would say: there's a difference between making a recording and making a record. You can sit in nowadays you can sit anywhere and make a recording and capture your song in the moment. And you can improve the conditions, is where you do it or whatever, to make the sound better. But you will have a recording that you will have it preserved for posterity. But if you want to make a record, then that's, to me, is a bigger painting with a much bigger palette. And when you're talking about music, you need to really be open-minded. You need to think about all the rhythmic possibilities. You need to think about all the thematic possibilities that there are, the genre possibilities that there are, and that stuff typically just comes to you in a flash of lightning. If sometimes though, as with this particular song, you could do that song with a reggae beat, for instance, be a totally different song. It would sound really good, and maybe one day we'll do that. And that, to me, that's the beauty of owning all this music, is we can circle back around anytime we want and redo all these songs with a completely different gender. Because I guarantee you could do a song like Jake Break, which sounds more country the way we've done it right now. You could easily do that song as a blues song. You could also do it as just a straight up rock and roll song. And it just depends on how you feel on any given day. And that's kind of how it's gone for us. Some days we come in here with a set idea of something we want to do. Other times it's just a kernel of an idea, and it grows while we're sitting here, and also referencing other music that we hear. I'll say it might be this was one synth moment in a song that, like, oh man, that's something I want to try to capture, a similar kind of feeling that I got when I heard that. You can almost never duplicate exactly what somebody else did, but what you're really looking for is that whatever it is that gave you that dopamine feeling when you heard that sound, whatever that sound.
And that's what I like when you bring references to me, and you're like, hey, what's this sound? I'm like, I don't know. And it's like, as a producer, it's like, okay, figure it out. You know what I mean? Right. I got to figure out and learn, and it puts me in a position like, yeah, man, I want to figure out what this guy. And one thing that I recall a lot is like, so David has his band Third Wind, and they play these songs that he writes and stuff. And sometimes when he comes in the studio, sometimes you bring the band, sometimes it's just us. But I do remember he brought one of his bandmates in, and Dave was like, "We're gonna play this song for you," and Ron looks at you and says, "Oh, we don't play it like that," you know what I mean? And it's amazing that his bandmate can sit in the couch behind me as I'm working the board and stuff like that, and we're adding his instruments, and he's seeing this song that he's been playing for 3 years take on a whole nother life, and he's like, okay, and then he wonders what we're doing, and he's like not seeing where this is going to end up, and he doesn't see it gelling. And then I keep saying 4 hours later in the day, usually he hangs out with us all day, and by that afternoon he says, wow, I didn't think it would turn into that. And it's funny seeing your own bandmates do that when they work on stuff, or when he brings them in and on songs that I'm used to doing, and he brings them in. I'm like, well, I didn't imagine playing like that. But everybody's styles and genres, and I mean, you're lucky. You've got Ron and Tim, which are two different styles of playing. But then when you put them together, it's like, man, this is like peanut butter and jelly, and they mesh and complement
and
each other.
They're not so different, really. First of all, they're both really tasty. Yeah, they both play a lot of tasty stuff, but their styles are close enough together that they really mesh. And there are a lot of times when we have recorded both of them together at the same time, playing what would essentially be the same part. Yeah. And we're going to go back and say, okay, which part are we going to keep? Because it's so much. And you play them together, and you're like, There's no way we can cut any of that. Together, they sound amazing.
And what was wild is Tim would come in one day,
right?
Ron would come in the next, and they're not. And we mute the other's guitar tracks.
So
we don't want them to be influenced and say, okay, I can play on top of that, or I need to play here. It's like, okay, you play. And then we unmute both tracks, and it's like,
oh my god,
wow! It's like y'all were in the room together and played and fed off each other, and then they hear it, and they're like, and then like Tim that hasn't heard Ron's part, he's like, wow, man! It's just and it's. I mean, I'm telling you, studio. People ask me all the time, what do you like better, the studio or live? And I'm like, I can't pinpoint. I have both. I mean, it's
studio far away.
I mean, studio's magic, but there's moments when I'm playing live and I look at my bandmates. I'm like, did you see that? Did you hear that? You do those moments, so it's hard to pick.
Well, it is. It's like golf. If you go out, you hit one good shot in golf, you'll come back again.
Yeah. So I love both. Both are different animals, and both are different creative spaces and stuff like that. But we have a few more minutes. Is there anything you'd like to highlight? We do want to say that David Garrett Arnold, all his music can be found on all the digital platforms. If you just Google David Garrett Arnold, whatever platform you listen to, Pandora, Spotify, YouTube. But just go check him out. Are you on Instagram?
Instagram, I think it's David A 1972 on Instagram, and you could probably find my Instagram through my Facebook. I think the reels kind of.
Yeah, we'll have all that linked in the bio.
Yeah, all the platforms. I have had this weird circumstance where Spotify has taken down the first album, Reach Out, and so if you want to hear my first album, you got to go to all the other platforms. To be honest with you, I've started recommending people use YouTube. Because everything goes to YouTube.
Just go straight there.
It's also something you can put a YouTube link into your Facebook thing, and it goes right there. People don't have to open another link or
it's kind of like a free website.
It's free, yeah.
Right. And so to be able to give people immediate access to a song you want them to hear, I typically try to use YouTube links as much as possible. Everybody uses that now.
They do.
So I highly recommend that you put your stuff on every platform if you're trying to get out there. And at my age, it's not as it's not a big imperative for me. I did it to save my words for posterity, and my grandkids love my music, and my kids love my music, and that's all.
Leave a legacy. Yeah,
that's all I care about, and they'll be able to hear me long after I'm gone. These stories will resonate with them long after I'm gone too, because they'll see their own lives in some of these songs. No question. But the strange thing about my full name is David Garrett Arnold. And the reason we emphasize that is because there's a famous David Arnold and there's the famous David Garrett. And if you look up either one of those independently, you get a lot of links for some guys who are really good. I highly recommend you listen to David Garrett and David Arnold. They're both amazing musicians. But if you want to hear my stuff, you really need to use all three names, David Garrett Arnold. David Arnold has actually produced a number of the Bond themes and things like that. So if you look up his stuff, that's what you'll find. And David Garrett, I think, is a violin player. I shouldn't say fiddle. He's a violin.
Yeah.
All right. Well, as we wrap up, Kay, do you have any questions as we wrap up? And
I do have a kind of off the topic request. If we gave you a guitar, could you play a song for the podcast?
Sure. All right. Yeah.
On a hot spring day, I was sitting beneath a tree. I was waiting for my woman
was hoping for a breeze down the road of peace. I heard the old rooster crow. Think I'll head down to the creek without letting anybody know. You know I love these Georgia back roads, this life under these blue skies. No right mind would ever leave it, at least not without good reason why. Then evening comes slipping in, right past the afternoon. For the sun is good and set, hell, we're gazing at the moon. What could be the sum of all these days spent so high? A laid back life in Georgia, down under these blue skies. You know I love these Georgia back roads, this life under these blue skies. No right mind would ever leave it, at least not without good reason why.
All right. Well, thank you, David, for coming to the After Dark studio and being a guest on the After Dark Spotlight.
I really appreciate you inviting me. Absolutely. And I look forward to coming back. We'll have another, I think we just kind of scratched the surface a little bit.
Tip of the iceberg.
Oh, yeah, it's
The
hard to
three
get-
of us have a lot to talk about.
Yeah,
We should do it
yeah.
again.
It's hard. I mean, you've recorded 75, 80 songs, so
Right.
it's hard
Right.
to fit all this stuff into
Right.
into one, in an hour or so. And there's so much we left out and stuff like that. But we want to try to cover the gist of it. But anyway, so
Thanks so much.
you guys have a blessed day, and we will see you all next time.